Well, just when you thought maybe Agenda 2030 was dead in the water, not so fast. In fact, maybe stronger than ever. Agenda 2030 may go down as one of the most sweeping and dramatic attempts to reshape human life in modern history. We're not talking about a few minor policy changes around the edges. We're talking about a full-scale transformation of how people live, how people eat, how people travel, work, own property, ultimately how populations are managed and controlled. Is the Iran war like a major piece of this new control grid? It's hard to say. Well, the most important part of this is that it's not some far-off plan sitting on a shelf somewhere. It's already underway massively. Much more of it is still coming, so buckle up. For those who may not already know, Agenda 2030 was rolled out by the United Nations in 2015, presented as a coordinated global mission to tackle issues like poverty and hunger. That's how they presented it to us. While also promoting good health, right? Don't eat meat. Eat fake plant-based garbage. Get quality education. Who's telling us like what quality education? Like who's going to provide that education? Really? Equality, right? It's all about equality, DEI, a whole list of other like lofty utopian sounding goals. One world government, essentially. But despite the sweeping promises that were made at the start, the evidence that has emerged since then has led many people to believe it's already done far more to advance what some are calling the New World Order and the broader goals of globalist control than to deliver the peace and prosperity that it was supposed to bring in. And over the past several years, more and more details about what critics believe is the real agenda have continued to surface, the push towards a one-world government. The end of private property. They don't want you to own anything, right? You'll own nothing. And they love that. Everything is moving to digital, so you don't own any sort of physical media. You won't own property anymore. Then you have the rise of the 15-minute cities, which is happening in real time, designed in a way that many fear would make populations easier to monitor, to manage, to control. We've already seen these 15-minute cities rolling out in England. We've covered it on our show. And even signs pointing to what some believe is a full-scale depopulation program. Now, while all of those concerns are serious and impossible to ignore, one part of Agenda 2030 that has not gotten nearly enough attention, and in some cases has been almost completely ignored, is the effect it's had on agriculture and how the policies tied to it appear to have taken us in the exact opposite direction from what people were promised. Because Agenda 2030 didn't just claim it would help end hunger, it also made major promises about protecting the integrity of the food supply, reducing harmful effects of what ends up on our plates at dinner time. Now, the agenda claimed it would move the world towards safer agriculture, less toxic exposure, get us away from all those harmful pesticides, stronger control over hazardous chemicals, and sustainable development goals. You can see that most clearly in Target 3.9, which calls for a major reduction in deaths and illness caused by hazardous chemicals and pollution. And in Target 12.4 in the document, which calls for environmentally sound management of chemicals and waste throughout their full life cycle by 2030. And then when you pair that with Target 2.4 on sustainable food production, the message seemed clear. Agriculture was supposed to become more productive without making us even more dependent on harmful chemical inputs. But the actual evidence points in the opposite direction. The latest figures from the Food and Agriculture Organization show that total agriculture pesticide use in 2023 reached 3.73 million tons of active ingredients. That's 14% higher than it was a decade ago. Oh, but we're all eating organic food. Everything's natural now. So that's roughly double what it was in 1990. And keep in mind, that's only what is officially being reported, because the FAO also shows pesticide use intensity at more than 2 pounds per acre of cropland in 2023. Again, this is 3 years ago. That's significantly higher than it was 10 years earlier. You think it's gone down since then? And that tells us the problem isn't just that more land is being farmed. It shows that there's actually a deeper and growing chemical dependence built into the system itself. Another widely cited global database study found that pesticide use increased by around 20% over the previous decade. So despite all of this language about sustainability that came out of Agenda 2030, the reality on the ground is that agriculture has continued moving steadily towards greater chemical dependence, not less. And what about all the insects, by the way? Like, where'd they go? We had Dave Wigington on recently, and he said, do you ever notice when you're driving, remember in the 90s you would drive and your car windshield would be covered in bugs at the end of the night in the summertime? Like that was constant. My little 1989 Ford Escort that I used to drive with my friends and blast Tom Petty music in the summertime, it was covered in mosquitoes and bugs. Not anymore. Where'd they all go? So you have these like direct contradictions, the gap between what was promised, what has actually happened, that are driving more and more people to conclude that Agenda 2030 has not protected us at all from dangerous chemicals, but may have actually accelerated the pesticide use and the spread. That's how this works. Then came a sudden shift that left a lot of people scratching their heads. A recent issued executive order. I mean, this made us furious here at Redacted. It sparked major backlash from the MAHA movement. Like, wait a minute, this is exact opposite of the MAHA movement. The order taken by the administration appeared to give added protection to Bayer and Monsanto in its production of glyphosate, the key ingredient in Roundup, despite the mounting evidence and large numbers of lawsuits tied to glyphosate. It's linked to higher risk of cancer, Alzheimer's disease. Watch this.
50 years ago, Monsanto invented something that would change the world forever.
Roundup, no root, no weed, no problem.
But Roundup was more than just a good weed killer.
We've been using the weed killer for decades, but now it's at the center of a billion-dollar health scandal.
Did Roundup weed killer cause a man to get cancer?
There's many, many diseases that are linked to glyphosate exposure.
My doctor, he goes, I think this is all due to Roundup.
What made Roundup so effective was the chemical glyphosate, that thanks to Monsanto has become the most popular pesticide in the world, and now one that's linked to cancer.
My patient's dying just so their shareholders can make a few more bucks, just so their CEO can get a bonus.
Despite its links to cancer, Roundup is still a billion-dollar business. So how exactly did Monsanto pull this off?
There was an intentional effort to deceive that took place over many, many decades.
And now Monsanto has a new owner, a billion-dollar pharmaceutical firm. And together, they're working on a way to keep selling Roundup, no matter the cost.
So more glyphosate in our systems. Now, the main justification for this move was that it was necessary to protect American manufacturing, support domestic production. But for a lot of people, myself included, something about that explanation, of course, doesn't sit right at all, because if the stated goal all along has been better health, safer food, less exposure to these dangerous chemicals, then why are we suddenly watching government policy move in the opposite direction? Like, why is the Trump administration supporting more of this in our soil? So today I wanted to bring on Kim Bright, founder of Bright Core Nutrition, back on the show to help us sort through these controversial decisions. Kim has been fighting this cabal for nearly 50 years. Hopefully she can help us make sense of what we're seeing and maybe what's lingering here beneath the surface. Kim, great to see you. Welcome back.
Well, great to be back. Thanks for having me. Clayton, I remember when Natalie was interviewing a reporter a couple months ago, and they were speaking about the 2030 agenda. And he said something that really stuck deeply in my mind, that the agenda marches forward regardless of the administration and who is in power. And, I hate to say it, but man, he's right about that. But here's the deal. These guys like to cause chaos and confusion, and they're sure doing that. And I'm as confused as everyone else about some of the things going on right now. I mean, for instance, the farmers that, they were talking about in that clip, there isn't another option right now that allows us to continue to produce enough food agriculturally to feed everyone without making a transition first, because we've been dependent. They made the farmers dependent on these pesticides for close to now over a half century. And so we're talking about, they did it for the quantity of food that could be produced, not the quality of food. But now they're so dependent on it, and they've basically killed everything in the soils. And so any bugs that are out there, there's less bugs, I think, because they've been killed off too. But any of those bugs now, they're going to attack the weakened plants even more. And the other thing is, there's no doubt that glyphosate and other pesticides are totally bad for our health. But one positive, I try and find a positive somehow, in this is that we are taking away the manufacturing of this from other countries, because the number one producer of glyphosate worldwide is China. And before this executive order, Bayer Monsanto produced the majority of glyphosate in Germany. But I think gaining control of manufacturing will allow us to wane off dependence on this dangerous chemical. Plus, a lot of other things have to change too to get that soil healthy again. It's not going to happen overnight. But people still have to eat something, and that's just the gist of it. But you know, at the end of the day, regardless of who's producing it, it's still poison. And I want to point.
Can you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious the poison part of this. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Like, I lived around like a small lake in Pennsylvania, and they would tell us in the HOA documents, because they knew how detrimental it was to the water supply and the lake, to the fish and everything else. Like, do not use Roundup to spray your driveway or whatever, you know, because it would run off right into this lake, and it would have a detrimental effect on the fish and the whole ecosystem. It was in the homeowners association documents. You weren't allowed to use Roundup, specifically labeled this. And this is like 20 years ago. So we know that this is a poison, but how bad is glyphosate? Like, what exactly is it doing to us?
Well, first of all, it's destroying the microorganisms in the soil, and that's what allows the plants to uptake nutrients. But it's destroying that microbiome, but it's also going into our body and destroying our microbiome. It's destroying our good bacteria that do so many things in our body that I'll get to a little bit later. But, you know, Clayton, it's been known. And so it's just been keeping in use because there's lots of money involved. And when you can make people sicker and sicker on this stuff and poison them more, well, guess what? Medical community, they make a lot of money. All these guys, Big Pharma, we've talked about this before, they're all working in collusion together. And you know, the thing is, it's not just glyphosate, Clayton. It's pesticides also that are far worse than glyphosate. And they're still being used. Did you ever read Silent Spring?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, what's her name?
I can't think of it now. I'm having a break.
Yeah, I read it in college, Silent Spring, of course, and it was all about the DDT and the bald eagles. Oh my gosh, it's Philip.
And other insects and everything. I mean, it's
Rachel Carlson.
Rachel Carlson.
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Rachel Carlson.
Carson. Sorry, Rachel Carson.
Rachel Carson. Yeah. No, it's been going on for so long, and they're still using pesticides that are far worse than glyphosate. And I find it very interesting, too, that even though all of this has been shown to us in our health as it's not good for us, there are thousands of lawsuits that are against the glyphosate, concerning the glyphosate, but virtually there's no lawsuits against these other pesticides that are proven to be more harmful. And some of these pesticides have even been used in warfare, as nerve agents, and they're wreaking havoc on our health, especially, I think, for older Americans, which leads me to believe, Clayton, that glyphosate, despite being unquestionably bad for our health, is far from being the most toxic pesticide that we're being exposed to.
So it's kind of like they're like the boogeyman. Like glyphosate is like the boogeyman, but there's many, many other pesticides that are maybe even far worse.
Yeah, it's just what they're adept at. It's like, look over here, but don't look at what we're doing here. Oh, look over here. You know that whole thing, how they work, all that. So, you know, there's so much mounting evidence that pesticides are being used as part of course, the deliberate population control program, which we know the bad guys want. And that's increasing our risk of cancer and other chronic diseases. But it's not just that. These pesticides are actually attacking our cognitive abilities in a way that could be nothing less than intentional targeting. And what I'm talking about here, Clayton, is problems with our memory, higher rates of dementia, and Parkinson's disease. I mean, a few days ago, Robert Mueller just passed away, and he was dealing with years of Parkinson's. these things affect our mood, they give us anxiety, depression, because our body's not, it's suppressing the good guys in our body and aiding and abetting the bad guys. It's raising our risk for other chronic diseases like heart disease and asthma and diabetes and cancer. But again, back to 2030, the whole Agenda 2030. I think that, for those who simply see Agenda 2030 as a scheme for depopulation, I think they're missing out on how intricate and detailed some of these attacks are. I don't think the goal is simply depopulation. I think they want to depopulate and disarm those that have the presence of mind and know how to fight back. I mean, everything about how this agenda is played out indicates that they want to target older, wiser individuals first. And I think it could be for a variety of reasons. I believe that it's because the younger generations have already been conditioned to comply for the most part. So they're not having that tendency to resist. Some are, but, a majority of people that are younger aren't. And I think even being aware that something's very wrong in what we're dealing with every day, it eludes them. And I think the bad guys, they want a generation, the new generation that's made up of those TikTok robots. They seek instant gratification, and they want to populate these 15-minute cities with people who are incapable of recognizing what's truly going on in the injustices, and essentially the people that are too naive to think for themselves. So, if you become fixated solely on that it's on depopulation, I think you're missing the point, because they can target the population most apt to resist without killing them, but robbing them of their cognitive facilities and mental stability.
I mean, this dementia thing is a huge piece of it. I've been seeing studies over the past week, actually. I was away for a little bit over the weekend, and I was reading a study about dementia, and I couldn't believe the explosion of it. I mean, because, and Alzheimer's and everything else, but like, why are we seeing, I think it was like, what was that number? Like a 373% increase in dementia among 30 to 44-year-olds? Like, what?
It's staggering. And then it's a 311% increase in 45 to 54-year-olds. You never heard about these age groups having dementia before. I mean, this is significant. And
do you believe that it's environmental? I mean, it's got to be. I mean, where else is it coming from?
It's definitely environmental, because if you look at the bigger picture environmentally, they're spraying our skies with the chemtrails and the aluminum and everything that's in that, and it comes down and it's killing off our healthy soils. Our soils are struggling. The plants then struggle. The animals that eat the plants, including humans, are struggling. It's definitely environmental. The waters are polluted. Everything. And, so going back to, the dementia and the Alzheimer's, I mean, mental issues, health issues also have shown a significant consistent increase over the past 2 to 3 decades, Clayton, with a sharp acceleration around 2009 to 2015. But at the same time, the overall pesticide consumption rose by approximately 58% over the 2 decades leading up to 2015, with a consistent trend, an upward trend in that same time range. But
no one's willing to call that out. I mean, that seems to be a pretty obvious right? I mean, the same time we see a massive increase in the amount of pesticide use around the same time frame, and then we see this massive skyrocketing of dementia.
Yep. And that's, keep in mind, it's all pre-COVID and pre-vaccine, which isn't to say that vaccine, the COVID vaccine, didn't play a role in it as well. I think it certainly has. But the ultimate point is that there isn't any one thing, really. It's all of these things that are being used by those who are really in control to gain more and more power for their agenda. They're trying to reduce us down to nothing. And you know, we're going to be happy with no property. We're going to be happy with no health. We're going to be happy with nothing. And so, you know, raising awareness is a huge part of the battle that we're in. And it truly is a battle. But my mission has been for the past 50 years to not only bring awareness to these problems, but also help educate people about what we can actively do as individuals to try and protect ourselves against this craziness.
So what can we do to actually protect ourselves from all of this?
Well, first and foremost, I think, you know, people trusted for so long, Clayton, that if it was on a grocery shelf or, you know, anywhere food, whether it was ultra processed or whatever, it was okay to eat because otherwise it wouldn't be there. But you have to now be very careful and selective about what you're eating. Thank goodness RFK Jr. came in and started exposing this on a grand level about, you know, ultra processed foods. You got to pay attention to the sourcing of your food. And eat organic whenever possible. Try and go out to, you know, find farmers that are growing organically or regenerative farming and support them and stop just for the, don't get used to the convenience of supermarket food because you don't know where it came from. So try and be more selective and, you know, if possible. And prevention, of course, is always the first step, but it's far from enough. You know, a lot of people, they picture pesticides as something that just sits on top of, you know, the outside of the produce, like a dusty layer that they can just take home and rinse off with water. But let me tell you, those pesticides are really interesting because, you know, you need more than water to rinse the things off that just sit on the outside. But a lot of them actually will soak in and move through the plant's tissues. So you're eating a plant that is inundated with these pesticides. I mean, think about how a plant drinks water through its roots and it sends it up to the leaves and the fruit. And certain pesticides that hitches a ride in that same system, and it ends up inside what you're actually going to eat. Now, there are others that'll stay on the surface and cling to that skin and the leaves after spraying, but there are others also, like, you know, they spray with the GMO corn and it floats down the road and infects other organic cornfields down the road.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, we talk about organic. It's like, I remember when I lived in Montana, there was big concerns. Like, you'd have certain farms and ranches that they really wanted to make sure that whatever was being sprayed on that ranch wouldn't just be windswept and blow right into the other ranchers. And so they had to deal with this, and they would discover, and by the way, they would even be sued by Monsanto because they would know, like, certain seeds that were Monsanto seeds, Roundup protective seeds, were flowing into other people's farms. And like, I didn't plant this. It flew from that other farm, and now you're suing me because I have a Monsanto seed that I didn't pay for. Like, so how do you even, I mean, there's really no way to keep this stuff away from these other farms. Sadly, it seems.
It's really tough. I mean, it even goes into the irrigation water and it shows up where you least expect it. Yeah, I remember those days. They used to send around people to go take samples of other people's farm stuff that they were growing in order to sue them. And the people didn't have anything to do with those.
I mean, that's trespassing. Like, you have Monsanto, like, lawyers, like, snooping around farms, stealing seeds so they can, like, scan it and see if it's a Monsanto seed or not, like a Roundup, you know, protective seed. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, anyway, it's crazy. I mean, you know, but just people have to understand that these pesticides have leached their way into our soil on a global scale. So even if you're following strict organic diets, you're not going to avoid the rapidly accelerating eventual exposure. And some of these pesticides we're talking about have been proven to be more toxic, as I said earlier, than glyphosate. And perhaps the most damaging and widely used pesticide now is called chlorpyrifos. And it's causing severe damage to our DNA, our cardiovascular, our respiratory systems, an unequaled level of damage to our cognition and brain health. And I just want people to understand that when it comes to our brain, when it comes to all these other areas of our body and organs, the first line of defense is our gut.
So how can you maybe explain a little bit more? I mean, I know this from years ago, but it's certainly the science on it has expanded dramatically. I mean, going back to the days when I would interview Dr. David Perlmutter, and he was exposing this brain-gut health relationship and Alzheimer's, and he was like kind of getting vilified for his, this was like 20 years ago, for his like brain-gut health relationship. Maybe can you explain how your gut health impacts your brain health and maybe leading to this dementia problem?
Sure. I mean, you know, we have what's like this highway from our gut to our brain. It's our vagus nerve, and they communicate along this highway. And all aspects of our cognitive health, whether it's early onset Alzheimer's or other neurological disorders, or our mood, are determined by the health of our gut, because our brain chemistry originates in our microbiome and then travels up that highway through the vagus nerve. That is called our gut-brain axis. And it involves nerves and hormones and immune signals, where they're constantly sending messages affecting our mood, our digestion, our stress levels, you know, even our cognitive function. And the gut microbes play a significant role in this crosstalk. I mean, if you can think of your gut as your second brain that talks to your actual brain, it's influencing everything from anxiety to appetite. And the gut doesn't only affect our brain, it affects all areas of our body. Now, how it does this is the gut, when we have, it's just kind of like, if people can think with, if you have a sick soil and it has been robbed of its beneficial bacteria that help a plant, a seed, when you put that seed in that soil, it needs the good microbes there in order for that seed to be able to grow and uptake nutrients and elements that eventually come into our food supply that then we eat. And what happens is, when we take food that is loaded up with good bacteria, we're able to then have that in our body. But if we're uptaking food that is lacking nutrients, is lacking enzymes because it's been created in almost dead soil, pesticide-rich soil, our gut microbiome is going to be sick too. You have a sick soil microbiome, you're going to have a sick gut microbiome. And what does that mean? That means that we've got viruses that come in and replace the good bacteria. We have fungus that comes in. We have parasites that come in and thrive in our gut. And when that happens, the gut cannot naturally make things like serotonin, our happy hormone. It can't make that in the gut. That's where it originates. 80% of our immune system's in our gut. And our immune system weakens, just like the immune system of the plants. They have not quite like our immune system, but they have an immune system where they have these protective elements that they pass on to us that aren't there if they're being grown in this depleted soil. So if people can really understand that when we are eating food that is made from a soil that's been depleted, our gut's depleted, and it cannot make and produce the hormones. It cannot make and produce the hormones that are going to affect our mood, that then ultimately affect anxiety, give us anxiety. It can't manufacture the things that's needed to break down bile. So then our blood fills up with fat, and then we have high cholesterol, and then we have heart problems, and then we have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. All this starts and originates in our gut. And we can't think straight. We get foggy brain, we get Alzheimer's, we get dementia, because that whole communication system that goes from our gut to our brain, the gut to our liver, the gut to our skin even, we start seeing all kinds of things happening on our skin. It all comes back to that healthy microbiome.
It's remarkable. And I think, I know that FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary was recently talking about how serotonin is made in the gut. And so all of it is connected. I guess we have this clip. I want to play this here. Take a look.
We also know that the microbiome is producing things central to health. It makes vitamins, it makes clotting factors, it makes serotonin, which is involved in mood. 90% of your body's serotonin is made in the microbiome. What's happening when we alter the microbiome in the modern world? Antibiotics can carpet bomb parts of the microbiome, resulting in overgrowth of one type of bacteria. And a study out of the Mayo Clinic that was recently published showed that kids who took antibiotics in the first 2 years of life had a higher rate of chronic diseases, from allergic rhinitis to obesity, compared to kids who did not have exposure in the first 2 years. Why is that? Well, it may be because their microbiome has been altered. Now, the average 2-year-old has already received over 2 courses of antibiotics in their brief 2 years, sometimes in the first day of life, just as a precaution. And we're now trying to have better antibiotic stewardship.
That's crazy to me because,
yep.
You know, you're just destroying that entire population of the good bacteria in your gut biome with these antibiotics. And I just saw a study last week actually about how now it can take up to 2 years to remedy that. If you wipe it out with some sort of an antibiotic, you get the flu or whatever, you know, and they give this thing to you, and it can take up to 2 years to fully build it back again.
Yeah, and you have to know what you're doing to build it back, because so many people, if you keep eating, you know, ultra processed foods and everything, you're not giving your body what it needs to rebuild. And think about it, Clayton. How many people got cesarean deliveries? How many people didn't get fed breast milk? All of that aids and abets a baby's microbiome, and if they don't have that, their immune system is so reduced when they came in. So we're dealing with all kinds of attacks from all sides. And then when doctors are targeting brain disease, they will prescribe medications in an effort to directly target the brain. They forget, or they might intentionally do it, about, addressing a root cause. They're treating symptoms instead of curing the problem. And you're going to find the root cause of problems in the brain, just like most other areas of the body, within the gut microbiome, because of that balance of good and bad bacteria. And taking proactive steps to protect yourself is as essential, if not more, than simply avoiding pesticides, which you almost can't do this day. And so I got very excited, Clayton. I found this study called Kimchi Degrades Chlorpyrifos with the most intense pesticide that we're using, the most damaging, and it accounts for 40% of total global pesticide usage. And it's far more dangerous, as I said, than glyphosate. And this study that I found showed that kimchi actually degrades it during fermentation. 83% of this pesticide was degraded by day 3. And by day 9, it was degraded completely.
Wow.
And just so people know, they actually banned this pesticide completely in 2021. And then they came back and banned its use in 2023. So what in the world is going on here? They're clearly playing a game. And
they banned it and then they unbanned it. And then they unbanned it.
And they're using glyphosate as a misdirector here, and it's crazy. But the study goes on to show how kimchi's gut protective properties provide us the best protection from toxins in our food supply. And there's so many studies out there, Clayton, that are showing the remarkable ability of kimchi to positively impact not only our brain, but every area of our health.
Yeah, like cognitive and memory functions as well. And you would talk about the dementia piece of this, right? Here's this study as well on the cognitive and memory functions. What are we looking at here?
Well, you're looking at that the bioactive compounds that are existing in kimchi, that it improves the cognitive memory functions impaired by amyloid beta. Now, what is amyloid beta? That's the key marker of Alzheimer's disease. And then the cancer preventative potential of kimchi with the lactic acid bacteria. And there was another study that showed eating kimchi every day for 12 weeks, and that's key, eat it every day, can do far more than improve your gut health. It can actually train your immune system to fight smarter. And there was another study that I found that regarded anti-aging effects of kimchi. It actually slowed the aging of human cells. And then another study showed the ability to improve heart health and prevent hypertension. And another study I read reduced the body fat by 31.8% by eating kimchi every day. Can you believe that?
I need that. I need that. I've put on a little weight after the holidays, but it's remarkable because when you look at kimchi and you think about, okay, I've got to eat all this fermented food, but do I need to eat it on a daily basis? Like, how often are people needing to eat this, and how in what sort of a dosage can people get it and lead to this change in their body?
Well, you know, where kimchi originated was Korea, and they eat it over there every single day, sometimes at every single meal. And so there's a reason why all this evidence exists about kimchi and not other probiotic supplements or other fermented foods. I mean, there are people that are taking typical probiotic supplements out there, but I kind of consider them like a one-note solution. Whereas kimchi, what it does is it provides a complex microbial symphony, if you will, wrapped in protective fiber delivery system that ensures that the good guys actually arrive alive down to our gut. And it's more like a full ecosystem package because it has the 900 unique strains of probiotics, and it's naturally bringing prebiotics, which is the plant fibers and compounds that are found in some of its ingredients, the cabbage, the garlic, the onions, etc., that will feed the beneficial bacteria. And then postbiotics, the helpful compounds that those bacteria are producing during fermentation, like organic acids and bioactive metabolites. That combination matters because the probiotics often struggle to colonize or even to survive if the gut environment is not supportive. So kimchi has all those things that help create the supportive environment and delivers ready-made microbial byproducts that can interact with the gut lining and immune system right away. And in practice, that means that kimchi can offer a more reliable multi-pathway benefit than, let's say, your typical probiotic pill. If people are taking that typical probiotic supplement, you're likely also only getting a few different strains of bacteria, but a high CFU count. While billions of CFU counts makes for great marketing, focusing solely on the quantity of bacteria is kind of like judging a military strength by the number of soldiers while ignoring their specialized training. So if you look in the complex landscape of the human gut, microbial diversity is number one key. It's a far more accurate predictor of health than raw CFU counts. And this resilient gut that we want to build isn't built by a massive population of identical strains, which is what I'm talking about in the probiotic supplements, but by a varied community that can adapt and defend and perform a wide array of metabolic tasks.
So I guess, is this something that we would need to take on a daily basis? I mean, I take kimchi every day. I certainly try to eat it as much as possible, try to always eat it with meat. And if I don't, I try to take, supplements, obviously. But how often do we have to take this in order to build this up?
Well, in every single research paper that I've read, and I've read thousands, they take it every day. And in order to reap all the health benefits of kimchi, I believe it needs to be consumed on a daily basis, which is why we decided to create Kimchi One. So we could put all the remarkable benefits of kimchi in a convenient capsule form, which people are used to taking. I mean, the studies, that show that people, especially Americans that aren't used to this type of food, may not eat it every day. But I want to say one thing, when it's in a capsule, most Americans are used to taking it that way. But if you look at the studies are great, but nothing compares, Clayton, to hearing directly from the people that have used Kimchi One and have benefited from being able to take it every day. And we have thousands of stories, but I'd like to share just a couple. We had a lady who's from Tulsa. Her name is Jennifer, and she called in and ordered the Kimchi One. She started giving it to her mother, who was experiencing things like brain fog, and her memory was getting worse. And she experienced a night and day difference when she started taking the Kimchi One every day. And again, that's because our gut health affects other areas of our health, like our brain, like we've been talking about. And another great success story we've had is, and I felt so sorry for this woman because what she went through was so horrible. It was truly horrible. She's 64, her name is Nancy, and she was dealing with terrible anxiety and depression for decades. And she couldn't identify the reason and she didn't want to take prescription drugs and then get on that wheel where she's stuck in taking them for the rest of her life. So she started taking Kimchi 1, and she saw an incredible uplift in her mood and energy levels. And now she's happy. That serotonin's being manufactured in her gut, and it's all great. But there's countless stories about improved digestion, regularity, stronger immune systems, and people who were suffering from a variety of symptoms and couldn't identify the cause are finally feeling better. And again, you're right. The key is daily consumption, and having it in the capsules makes it so much easier to stay consistent and actually realize all these health benefits. So Kimchi 1's made here in the United States, all natural, non-GMO.
I take it every day. Like I said, I take two with me every day, and I absolutely love it. So, and now every member of my family is taking it as well, and even I got my father-in-law now to start taking
awesome.
it. He was dealing with some of that brain fog, and he's been trying to reverse that. So fantastic. So I know you have a special offer for our viewers. Can you tell us about if people want to order Kimchi 1 and have it delivered to their house?
Yes. I just want to say, there's so much chaos going in the world right now. It's easy to have everybody just throw their hands up and say, I give up. But, you can take proactive steps. So take those steps to protect yourself and your family and society as a whole against things like Agenda 2030. I mean, when we stop fighting the battle is when all hope is lost. So let's, get our guts healthy as a beginning point, and let's help you take this important step. We want to do that by offering you 25% off of your order of Kimchi 1 today by clicking the link below and using the code redacted. Or for an even better deal, call us for up to 50% off and free shipping. And that number is 888-404-6312. And we love you to call. I've been educating for over 50 years now, people. We love having you call in. We like to answer your questions and talk to you and make sure that you feel good about this product and you understand how it's going to work for you and that it's the right product for you. And every person that calls to order, we're going to give you a free bottle of our Thrive. And Thrive is a curcumin turmeric complex that combats inflammation, boosts your brain function, and even promotes liver health. So remember, you're only going to get the best discounts in that free bottle of Thrive when you call 888-404-6312.
Yeah, I love what you guys do, which is, hey, we just want to talk to you on the phone, and if you call us, we'll give you 50% off. If you just want to use the website, we'll give you 25% off, but we want to actually develop a relationship with you. And it's so funny. Your team, because I buy it separately. I order it and have it sent to my house, and I eat it. I take it every day as part of my supplement stack. So does my wife. And your team called like a few weeks later just to see how everything was going. They had no idea who I was. Like, they were not aware that and they just were like, you just want to check in, see how you're liking everything. And so it's like, wow, that's like such an anachronistic thing, like an American company that wants to actually have a conversation with you.
So rare these days, right? We actually care. It's like the neighbor next door. You get to have a conversation. How are you doing? How's it going? Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, thank you, Kim, for this. We'll be watching Agenda 2030. It's crazy with Agenda 2030 because I think a lot of people thought that it was dead, right? We haven't been hearing about it. It was something under the Biden administration era, these globalists in the EU and the World Health Organization and Klaus Schwab. And it's still here. It's still here. Oh, yeah. And these globalists are running the show.
Yep. Sorry to say, you are correct. You are correct. And we have to just step up to the plate and take more responsibility for what we can. And starting with our own bodies, we can do that. And, hopefully be a voice out there to stop these crazies before it's too late.
and to be sort of self-sustaining in our own way, in our own families, if we can. It has to start at home, I guess. Kim, great to see you. We'll have links in the description if people want to take advantage of that. Thank you for this, and thank you for this deep dive on all these pesticides that are currently part of this agenda. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for what you do, you and Natalie.
Thanks so much, Kim.